So good evening. I'm Marcia Edwards. I'm the CEO here at Martha O'Brien Center, and we are so honored to host Dr. Joseph, our school board members, and all of you to this meeting regarding the Stratford cluster and the school district in general. It is a deep commitment we have here at Martha O'Brien, and when I say commitment, I mean our people, our finances, and our heart to the success of the Stratford cluster, all the schools, and the children. So it is a great honor for us to do this. We're so happy to have all of you leaders and parents and students. And with that, I will turn it over to Elisa Kim, our District 5 school board member.
Thank you, Marcia. Kina, can you hear me? Am I okay? Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. It's thrilling to see this many people at this event, so thank you so much for coming. I have the great privilege of introducing Dr. Joseph, and then after I do that, Jill Spearing, our District 3 representative, will walk us through a few housekeeping items. But before all of that, I do want to recognize some of our distinguished guests, including our councilman, Brett Withers. Thank you. Jill and I's fellow colleague, Thais Hunter, who also sits on the school board. And then also, we have a number of principals and assistant principals in the building, but I don't know everyone, so I'm going to ask everyone to stand up. I know Dr. Michael Steele is here from Stratford, but there's a whole bunch. That is fabulous. Okay, I'm glad I asked for that. So I knew there were folks floating out there. Okay, thank you so much for coming. But I guess we will transition to Dr. Joseph himself. So I know that every single person in this room has the capacity through their thumbs and their smartphones to Google this man and to find out all kinds of autobiographical information, and he is very impressive on paper. He has all the proper credentials with a very fancy backdrop and resume. You can find all of that online. I'm not going to talk about that, given that. I'm going to try and share, I'm going to dispense with all of that and try and share just a few little anecdotes that really maybe reveal more of who he is and what I've discovered over this process that you might not be privy to. It's like, did our director of school, his eyebrows like, what? Okay, so it won't be bad. So first of all, I mean, I've been in education for 20 years, and the beauty of my day job is that I have a huge national network in education. And so when we first started vetting all the candidates, he was on the list, and of course, I put out feelers. I was asking, okay, what's the deal with this guy? Does he have the goods? Because that's what I want to know. Can he get things done? And I just want to let you all know that every single report that I was getting back through all these back channels, and I was working the back channels, was fantastic about his ability to get things done. Because a resume is a resume, but if you can't get things done, we're not interested. And so I was very reassured. Then we get to the interview process itself, and the man starts quoting Langston Hughes from memory. And he starts twice. He is quoting poetry from memory, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this man not only has an impressive resume, is known for getting things done, he has soul and he has heart. And so, another check. So that was the second experience. And then the third thing, so if you follow the media, I will admit that, you know, maybe you have seen that we as a school board can be an interesting group of people. And a feisty group of people very passionate about what we believe in and what we're advocating for. And so you can imagine someone stepping into that. It's just a very difficult position. And so on our very first retreat, just a couple weeks ago, I'm wondering, how is he going to react? He's not even on the job yet. This is not even his first day. He's thrown into this situation. And the grace and the poise and the humility that he brought to that space with all of us was just extraordinary. And I did have moments during the course of those 2 days holed up with my fellow board members in Chattanooga, Tennessee, thinking, wow, you know what? Things like honor actually matter. Things like humility actually matter. Things like doing the absolute best thing that we possibly can for our kids really matters with this man. And the confidence that I felt coming out of that space and the hope that I felt is frankly the most that I've felt in the 4 years I've been on this board. And I just want to say to you, Dr. Joseph, I'm so thrilled that you're here. And every single interaction, it has been impressive to see you in action. And the reality is right, we all know there's no playbook for this job, right? There's so many problems. The problems are enormous. The district is growing. Nothing is simple. And so the best we can hope for is someone who has the wisdom to discern what is necessary and then the courage to do what is right. And I feel like this is the man who has all these characteristics and a little soul on top of it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over there, maybe a lot. So yes, to Jill actually to give us a few housekeeping items about the forum, and then over to Dr. Joseph.
Thank you, Elisa. I know you are sitting on the edge of your seats to hear from Dr. Joseph. So can you hear me okay? Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Is that better? No, not so much. How about that? Maybe I ought to take it off. Okay, how's that? Yes. Yay. Okay, I wanted to tell you that we have translation services tonight. There is a table in the lobby where the translation headphones are located. So we're going to hear that in some other language. Yes, thank you.
Me llamo Molly y voy a estar disponible para interpretar al español. Si alguien necesita intérprete, puede pasar a la mesa cerca de la entrada en el vestíbulo para obtener un audífono para escuchar la interpretación.
Thank you. We have several staff members here tonight that will be helping us. Would you raise your hand if you're one of the microphone people? Look around and see where they're in the back right now. So when you're ready to speak, raise your hand, and one of the ladies with the microphones will come to you as they see you. They will come down to the aisle, and we ask that you not stand in the aisle, but that when they motion to you, if you're in the middle, scoot on over to the side. They will hold the microphone for you, and we ask that you keep your comments to about 1 minute or less, so that everyone will have a chance to be spoken, to be heard. You also have comment cards, so if you don't want to speak on the microphone, that's not a problem. Just complete the comment card, raise it in the air, and they will come by and pick it up, and they will read that as time permits. When the session is over at 7:30, our gallery will continue to be open until 8 o'clock. How many of you have already visited the gallery? Great. If you have not visited it and you have some more questions or comments you want to make, please do that between 7:30 and 8. And without further ado, I give you Dr. Sean Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an exciting time to be in Nashville. It really is. I mean, there's so much synergy and energy here. I've never seen this quite before, and I've been a number of different places. I mean, I think the people here in Nashville are committed to doing something extraordinary for children, and we have 86,000 beautiful children within our school district that deserve something extraordinary. And then our commitment has to be, we've got to work to give it to them, because it should be an inalienable right that when a child comes to school, they have people who care about them and are going to see the gifts that they all bring, because all children bring gifts, regardless of how many bathrooms you got in your house, regardless of what language you speak, regardless of what ethnic background, religion. There's a gift that's what's inside, and if if they have the right experiences under the right conditions, those gifts can be maximized. And that's the hope of American education, right? I mean, we're the place where we say we're going to educate everybody, and the goal is to educate everybody with excellence. I can't say enough about our current Board of Education. I mean, the commitment, the passion, the hard work that they have exhibited in not only going through a process to find a director of schools, because this was this was hectic. this was a pretty intense process, but it should be. It should be, because the responsibility to do something extraordinary is significant. And so, I appreciate Ms. Kim's tenacity and her sense of urgency for this work. And I thank you for your 4 years of excellence on the board. Can we give her a round of applause? It's not, it is not an easy job to be a Board of Education member. It's one of those jobs where, it's like, if I'm a Redskins fan, and, every Monday, I know. but we did win a division last year, I'm just saying. But just saying. But what the Redskins have taught me, though, is that, under the right conditions, with the right quarterback, and with a team that's committed to do something, you can dramatically be better than you were. You might not win the championship in the first year, but you can be better. And, as it relates to Jill, Jill has communicated with me about her passion for reading for all children in this district consistently. And I wholeheartedly appreciate, the passion, thought, and insight of what you've done for us as we're working here, because we've got to get it right. I really do want to thank Ms. Edwards for opening up this beautiful facility to us, and I want to thank our councilman. When we were doing the interviews, I had to meet the council. And your councilman came, he was the first one there, and he spoke specifically and explicitly about the unique needs of this community. And he put out very openly and very clearly that education is something that we have to work on in this community, that there are wonderful spots of excellence that we see, but the question was, how do we make sure that we see excellence everywhere? That we have a portfolio of extraordinary opportunities in East Nashville. And then I made a commitment to him that we're going to work to do that. So thank you for your commitment and your participation here. And again, you're the hardest working man in show business, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you, for that work. But listen, we've got work to do. We know that, and there's no way. What I love about us having this opportunity to talk here in a community center is that it's symbolic of the fact that there's no way that any school is going to do anything by itself. The only way we're going to make schools extraordinary everywhere, all across this district, is by having our parents, by having our business community, by having our profit organizations, by having the philanthropic community, and by having our kids believe that there can be excellence in all of our schools, and check in and commit to rolling up our sleeves together and working to make that happen. Last night at the board meeting, we brought out about 20, 30 some odd new leaders in the Metro Nashville Public Schools, principals and people who supervise principals, and our deputy superintendents, and all the, just everybody. We have a multitude of new people here because, the team has to be strong. The team has to be strong, and I would put our team up against any team in the country. At this point, we have diversity and we have substance, and that's what's going to make a difference here. This team was already strong because you have had Chris Henson with you, who was our chief financial officer, and he's been an interim superintendent, and we're extremely excited that he has stayed on the team as our chief operating officer, because we have somebody who not only knows this district, but is committed to making sure that we're resourced appropriately. So Chris, we thank you for your leadership and support. This is the 6th listen and learn session that I have participated in. And, you know, some of the themes in the first 5 that have centered around, you know, so how are we going to make sure we are appropriating appropriately for all of the needs within our schools, right? We have students with special needs who need additional support. We have students who are gifted who need supports. And I can tell you, when I thought about who we needed for a chief academic officer, we needed somebody who knew instruction and knew how to push on the edges to make sure kids get what they deserve. And Dr. Monique Felder, our new chief academic officer, has been an award-winning principal. So she's been a teacher. She has been in charge of gifted and talented programs in one of the largest school districts in the country. And for the past 2 years, she worked with me in Prince George's County as we tried to make equity and excellence available to all students. And Dr. Felder, we thank you for your support and the work that you will be doing with us. So we've brought Dr. Cito Narcisse back to the district. He actually student taught here at in Antioch High School. He went off to the University of Pittsburgh, got his doctorate. He's been a turnaround principal in Pittsburgh and in Boston, and he worked in Montgomery County supervising 34 schools, and he was in Prince George's County supervising 76 schools, high school, middle, and elementary. So when we looked for somebody who could really support our principals and provide on the day-to-day coaching, we could think of nobody better than Dr. Narcisse. So Dr. Narcisse, thank you for what you will bring. You know, we talk a lot. We know that we're a diverse school district, but we really hadn't had anybody really forcing us to look through the lens of equity in all of our work. And I couldn't find anyone better than Dr. Marisa Gonzalez, who is with us. Dr. Gonzalez? No, Dr. Gonzalez had a similar position in Prince George's County, and she has been a champion for families, all families. But her job is to make sure that no family becomes invisible in this district. That we, you know, if we're going to really have a partnership, then we've got to be thoughtful about what it takes to meet the diverse needs of our community. So in every facet of our work, we expect Dr. Gonzalez to be there championing all children as we do our work. Now, we have had some interesting conversations about charter schools and non-charter schools and choice in Tennessee, right? And it's been a conversation, in my opinion, that's just been way too narrow. Like, you know, the conversation has really centered around, do we have a charter because we don't think our schools are good, or, you know, or the public saying, you know, charter schools are taking kids from our schools and all of this type of thing. And we've just got to, you know, stop that nonsense in the conversation and just say we want excellent schools in Nashville, period. We don't care if it's a charter school, we care less if it's a public school. We just want to see excellence, and if excellence is there, great, let's expand it. And I want to, you know, I have a transition team, and a big part of that, one of the transition team's charges is we have a choice committee, and that choice committee is really looking at, you know, so what can we do to make sure that we have high quality choices in all communities? You know, do we have equity and access in our choice? Because what the choice should be, I mean, we should work with partners to provide broader opportunities for students, because the choice should be one of interest, that there are high quality options in every neighborhood. It's just a matter of, do I want a science and tech program, or do I want a humanities program, or do I want an extra music program? I mean, that's where we have to move the conversation and ask which partners are best in class to be able to provide those types of opportunities. And Mr. Dennis Queen understands this concept, so he's our new executive officer for charter schools. Mr. Queen? So Mr. Queen has over 10 years experience as a middle school and high school principal, and he's moved results at both levels. He's been an area superintendent in Milwaukee Public Schools, and Milwaukee has dealt with issues of choice longer than any urban school district in the country, for good, bad, or worse. They have dealt with how do we make that happen. And he's also been a community superintendent in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District. And in Charlotte has been hailed as one of the most innovative districts in looking at issues of choice and charters and things of that nature. So he brings the type of expertise that we need to broaden our conversation, to have a real dialogue about quality and expanding programs. And, you know, particularly in the east part of Nashville, we have a number of priority schools identified. And that priority schools list has continued to grow, which means that these are schools that have not performed at high levels on academic achievement. It doesn't mean that there isn't quality there. It doesn't mean that people aren't working hard. Just for whatever reasons, we've not gotten the student outcomes that we expect. And Mo Carrasco is someone that can help us think through that and break the barriers, break through barriers that we've had difficulties breaking through. Mr. Carrasco has been a middle school principal and turned around a very diverse middle school. He took one of America's highest performing high schools, the Richard Montgomery High School, and actually made it better. And he made it better by ensuring that students of color, students who didn't have lots of money, had equal invitations, access, and opportunities to do well in those rigorous programs. And as a result of his work, he was the, I believe, 2002 or 2005 Maryland State High School Principal of the Year. And he'll be here helping us figure out what we do to move our schools. So Mo, thank you for all of your support. You know, so we've got a board that's focused and committed. We've got a team that we think is one of the strongest in the country. We've got parents who, y'all come out. Look at us, and we appreciate you. And we've got staff that's already here in Nashville that's focused on doing the work. So, you know, what I need to do as we think about where we start is just listen. I mean, I need to understand your hopes and dreams. And I really need to know what you think is working. I mean, what are the good things that we shouldn't touch, or what are the good things that we should replicate? And also, I need to understand, so what are those things that have been frustrating you? The things that make you want to take your kids out, the things that make you, not want to be a part of our system, because we've got to listen to you. I mean, great organizations listen to their customers and adjust and improve. And we have to get into that notion of continuous improvement. So tonight is about listening more than giving answers. A lot of your comments I'll just take, and I don't know too much because I've only been here 7 days, so I really can't say too much. But what I can do is listen, and I can promise you that we'll take your feedback along with the feedback that we receive from the multitude as we go through these 12 listen and learns, and as the transition team goes deep and thinks about areas of student achievement, how we're communicating, issues of choice, and what we're doing to recruit and retain the best talent in America. We'll bring all that together to have a compelling strategic plan as we go into this next semester to execute for years to come. So at this time, I'd like to hear what's on your mind. So we have two wonderful staff who are going to be bringing the microphones to you. As Ms. Spearing said, they're going to give you 1 minute, so please, when you see the microphone leaving your mouth, that means it's time to start winding down. They're going to do it slow to give you a chance to kind of finish your thought, but they are going to get back to it, and we appreciate you because we want to get as much information as we can in the short time that we have together.
Hey, Dr. Joseph, we're glad you're here. Michael Utley, corporate partner at Stratford and parent of two at Stratford and one at Lytton. How can we continue to get the best AP classes at Stratford? How can we keep students showing up ready to learn? How can we continue the advance that Dr. Steele and others have started over at Stratford?
Yeah. So to be ready for an AP class starts with what happens in kindergarten and preschool. We've got to make sure that we have a strong feeder pattern to get students ready, because the fact is, if we don't get kids in algebra, there's no such thing as AP Calculus in 12th grade, because they will never have that trajectory. So one of the things we need to do is begin to invest in systems that look at where students are on a trajectory, and if they're not geared towards the advanced, what do we do to get them there? What additional supports are needed? How do we communicate with parents? And how do we ensure that our curriculum is strong and our teachers are trained to get them there? Without that, there'll never be an expansion of opportunity, of enriched opportunities like AP at Stratford.
Hi, good evening. My name's Maggie Thomas, and I have a daughter going into Stratford from Linton, and I have another one in Dan Mills. I'm curious, could you please explain your concept of coaching and how the Bransford office is going to support our principals? Because I've heard you say it in your interviewing time, and then again tonight, you mentioned coaching. And I mean, as a parent and also as a wife of a former MNPS teacher, there's definitely been a culture of fear in the district for a very long time. I'm kind of curious about that too, if you've heard any of that. But a lot of it stems from principals being told what to do, whether it's appropriate or not for their particular students at their particular school. And your viewpoint seems to be almost like 180 degrees from that, and one of, the office should be there to support the principals and not to dictate to the principals what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So here's what coaching means to me. I think we have to be clear. Principals have to be clear, and staff have to be clear about what's expected. And sometimes I think there's been a challenge with the clarity of expectation. So before we can begin coaching, we have to be clear about what those expectations are. And today, for example, principals received something we call a monitoring calendar that they should share with their leadership teams and with their staffs that explicitly say, for the month of July and for the month of August, when your supervisors come into your school, here are the questions they're going to ask you. And those questions are going to be centered around, real specific data points that we expect everybody to be monitoring. And if the data doesn't look good around that, then a team comes together to start asking why, and going into a root cause analysis process. And central office should come back understanding the challenges of schools and being able to come back and say, how do we help? You see, I think one challenge, you typically have a culture of fear when you have high accountability and low support, right? Because then people go nuts because they feel like they're going to get fired the first time they make a mistake. And so what we are talking about is a culture of high accountability and high support. See, I don't believe in, I'm not crazy about the autonomy notion, and meaning you just give somebody free rein to do what they want to do. I think you do that when you're getting results. When you're not getting results, you need help. And I think we've got to help you. And I don't, so I think what you'll see over the next year and more are principals, supervisors being in buildings weekly and touching your school often, and people from different offices within the central office coming to the school once they understand what the problems are and participating in a collective dialogue to get better. You'll see people being very explicit about what your data says and what it doesn't say, and what do we think we need to do to move the data, and how do we push to do that. So there's going to feel, I don't know how, hopefully it'll feel collaborative, and that's why there are two ways to do this, and that's why we have this book that we're encouraging people to read called Leadership and Self-Deception, because it essentially says that there's a problem in any organization, and the problem's us. And the only way you can fix an organization is by fixing yourself. And if you see people and you see them as people, not as objects, not as vehicles, there's you can dealing with the tough challenge. We've got schools where 20% of kids are reading on grade level. That's abysmal. And there should be urgency in that building, and people shouldn't be just la-la-la in that building. You've got to be on top of it, trying to figure out why, actively working to do something about it. And so the coaching can feel stressful if somebody isn't really trying to work as hard as they need to help move it. It'll feel joyous if they're engaged and they got people coming to help brainstorm and think about it. That's what I mean, a little bit of coaching. So we have a system. I don't want to get theoretical. We have a coaching framework that we'll be using with some consultants that help us come do that. So we don't tell you what to do. We just focus on what we see the issues are and help the brainstorming process and support process to, study, reflect, plan, and do as we're doing the work.
You have a question over here. Good evening. My name is Carrasco, and I'm a rising senior at Stratford High School.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I was
We can give her a round of applause. Right? That's applause worthy.
And I was just wanting to know, is there going to be any internships or scholarship opportunities this school year and the other years that's going to be coming from you that we can apply for?
Well, I ain't got that much money. But one of the things I am talking to the business community about is how do we create internship opportunities for kids. I think we have an extraordinary business community in Nashville, and we have extraordinary kids, and the academies have connected students in the business community more so than you see around the nation, but I think we can do better. So one of the things, I don't know about scholarships, but I am really pushing towards internship opportunities for kids to be able to get out in the field, understand what the job market expects, not only from the academics, but just some of the social behaviors that are expected when you go into the workforce. I mean, that's important to our business leaders, and it's important that you get out and be exposed to that type of stuff.
Good evening. My name is Marcia Jordan. I have a rising 11th grade at Stratford High School. My question is, Stratford is going to have a new look on August the 3rd, meaning we'll have 5th through 12th grade in one building. What is going to be the strategy in ensuring that these students will remain where they're supposed to be in terms of the middle schoolers and the high schools, especially when you have, I'm not saying this is going to be a safety issue immediately or anything of that magnitude, but just ensuring that these middle schoolers will stay where they're supposed to be and the high schoolers stay where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know enough about the specifics to answer in detail. What I will say is that Dr. Narcisse will ensure that the principal supervisor is working with the principals at those schools to, ensure that they've thought about the plans and logistics as we go through, because proper planning promotes performance. And if there's no plan, then I'd be very worried. And if we'll make sure that there is a plan. We do have 15 more days before school begins. So if there's not a plan, there's plenty of time to build one. But I will make the good faith assumption that a plan is established, but I will follow up on that. Sure.
Dr. Joseph, I don't mean to turn this into a Stratford night, but here we are again. First, I can assure you that our leader, Dr. Steele, has put a very strategic plan in place. But my question centers around belief. We use words at Stratford such as excellence, honor, and resilience. And I've heard you kind of throw those words around. As a matter of fact, Mrs. Kim said she was inspired and felt a sense of honor. As the quarterback of this team, Metro Nashville Public Schools, what is your plan to instill this same belief within all the leaders so that we are moving ahead as a district?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know we have to focus on culture here. And I know that the culture of an organization starts with the leadership. It starts with how the board works with one another, and how the board works with me, and then how I work with the organization. And it's one of the reasons we have connected, going back to the Arbinger Institute, to really study and understand issues of culture. And how do we go about keeping people focused on the work, not everything else? You see, I think one of the reasons we don't get results and one of the reasons we tend to have bad culture when we have it is because we don't focus on what's important. We get caught up in these conversations that distract us. We've got to be clear about what our goals are and clear about the type of organization we want to become. And we've got to constantly check ourselves and monitor our own core values and how we're working with people, and that we're always recognizing and giving people the dignity and respect that they deserve. You know, being respected can be inspiring when that's not been, you know, the case. And we'll commit to being, you know, respectful, thoughtful, and keeping kids first in all of our decision making.
Yeah, Aaron Sands, students at Lytton Middle as well as Dan Mills Elementary.
Hi.
Thank you for taking this opportunity and challenge as the
He's got a new
director.
principal today. You'll find out tomorrow. Dan
It's
Mills.
good news. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry it took so long.
So one question, last year there was a lot of attention on support services and Tony Majors and that team. There was an overhaul of the discipline matrix or behavior matrix last year. I'm not sure how much up to speed you are on that, but there was a lot in the last year of teachers and administration figuring out how do you do this, how do you administrate a whole new matrix of recording discipline and keeping disruption from having long tail effects in a classroom. And so if nothing else, I wanted to mention that to say that was a hard year in a lot of different ways. But one question that came up was, are the teachers and administration equipped and supported? And it felt like even though that matrix had been rolled out, there wasn't a lot of support under it. So an encouragement to put into that this year.
We will, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Hoy. Hi. Thank you for being here. I'm a community member, part of the Nashville Technology Council, involved with the Chamber. My question is around technology in the district and your philosophy and plan around technology in the classroom and in schools, both for teachers and students, ensuring both digital literacy and especially in a STEM cluster, ensuring that we have a pipeline of strong technology programming that's accessible in an equitable fashion across the district, and ensuring that our teachers are supported. I know that there's a great effort to support our teachers technology-wise, but there's a limited amount of support staff to be able to do that. And I'm interested in your philosophy on the role of technology as a digital component, a citizenship component, and a professional development piece.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, our kids learn much differently from the way we learned. And if we don't have the right technology in our schools, then we're disadvantaging our children. And so, you know, I think I need to understand what our technology plan is and what we have in the district, and you know, is it equitable? Now, I found in a lot of places that you know, don't have districts that don't have a lot of extra cash, and you know, Metro Nashville Public Schools is one of those districts that historically has not had a whole lot of extra cash. You find that, you know, schools with extra federal funds, you know, Title I funds and such, tend to have more technology than schools that did not have those types of funds and things of that nature. I don't know if that's the case here, but what I do know is we have to educate a 21st century learner, and I think we do need to look at you know, making sure that our classrooms are up to date. They don't look like the classrooms we had 20 years ago. I mean, there should be a standard package of tools that teachers have to be able to allow students to effectively create, communicate, collaborate, and demonstrate critical thinking skills. I mean, those are the 21st century skills that we expect all children to know. So if we don't have a plan and a package, we will by the end of the year.
Dr. Joseph, we have a comment card. I'm over here.
Hello, thank you.
We have a question from the comment cards. How will you ensure teachers receive adequate training so that they can recognize possible exceptional education students?
Yeah, so I know, again, that is one of Dr. Felder's passions from her previous work, and she actually wrote a book on identifying giftedness and that's masked, right? So it's at the forefront. We're actually sitting down today, me, Dr. Felder, and Dr. Narcisse were on the phone with an organization called Leading Forward. They're a staff development organization because we were talking about what are we going to do? We've got Nashville in this national cohort to just think about professional development systemically, across the district. And if we're going to eliminate disparities, we move the system by raising the expectation for all. Period. And one of the things I'm curious about is, do we have high quality enriched programs within all of our schools? You shouldn't need to go to a magnet school to have your gifted needs met. That should be able to happen in your local school. But it takes resources, training, and a different philosophy. Because for too long in America, we've said some kids should have this and other kids should have that, and it's wrong. We've got to have a rigorous curriculum and expect all to be able to work towards it and achieve it. And so we'll be looking at that. One of the teams, I have a student achievement team on my transition team, and it's being led by Dr. Michael Casserly, who is the executive director of the Council of Great City Schools. And so that is an organization where he leads efforts to increase achievement in the 70 largest urban school districts in America. And they have some of the most cutting-edge research on curriculum and what best practices in the country. So he's looking at that for me, and we'll have some recommendations if we're not doing it. They're going to kind of assess where we are as a district and then make recommendations on how we move forward if it's not there.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacola Lane. I'm actually a product of the Stratford Cluster, and I also work here at the Martha O'Brien Center as the director of the Family Resource Center. My question is in regards to how can the community be more a part of the school outside of the business community and internships that you mentioned? Because I'm very close with a lot of my classmates and things like that, and we still have conversations, and we don't feel as a part of the school or schools that we've attended in the past, and with the staff changes and things like that. So I would be open to hearing your suggestion for more community involvement, people who actually live in East Nashville or are from East Nashville.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's one of the conversations that the board and I are going to have up front. I mean, I think we have to look at our package of policies related to parent engagement and our administrative procedures. And the reason I'm going there is because, we should be clear as a district that we encourage and expect parent engagement in all of our schools. And we should create structures where parents have a voice at the table in terms of the governance structures that take place. And beyond the bake sale, as a researcher named Karen Mapp kind of wrote in a book from Harvard, we've got to make sure parents know the ways they can connect. We've got to communicate that. And when we lay out our strategic plan, one of the things that we'll have to come back and intentionally do is say, so where are the structures that parents can come in and give voice as it relates to curriculum, as it relates to student discipline, as it relates to, policy and governance. That's the work that we have to do, but it's really, there's a lot of policy work that I think that has to happen or be reviewed, and a lot of administrative procedures to just make sure, it's an inalienable right for a parent to be at the table giving their opinion and making sure that that opinion is heard.
Dr. Joseph, we have a question or comment from the comment card. It says, what will be done to improve support services to address truancy, dropout, teen pregnancy, drug use, etc.?
Yeah, that's a heavy question. I feel like Mayweather just hit me. Just joking. No. So what I would say with that, honestly, is we really need to work with our nonprofits. I think many urban districts, and I don't know where we are, but many urban districts just don't have the resource to have the right amount of counselors, the right amount of psychologists, the right amount of social workers, the right amount of truancy workers in their buildings, and it becomes a funding issue. I think this is an opportunity where our nonprofits can support us, and I know this board, I know particularly Jill has talked to me a lot about this community schools model and a community school strategy, and how can we, work with outside agencies to provide more wraparound services. So that's something we're going to be looking into. But I make no bone about it. I know there's 86% or so, 85, 86% of our budget is people. So we really don't have lots of discretionary monies to do the multitude of things that we know we need to do. So we're going to have to creatively and collectively work. I mean, yesterday, me and a number of board members, Ms. Hunter was a part of a conversation with the mayor and with some foundations and with the Chamber of Commerce, talking about, how do we go out and find funding to support more wraparound services and support. So the good news is we have a mayor and we have a council that's really passionate about working with us to look at how do we leverage government services as well as the services of the school system to provide better, more aligned and cohesive wraparound services.
Hi there. My name's Amy Ryan. You're my new boss, as I'm a teacher
Hello.
in the district. Nice to meet you. I've taught at Warner for a number of years.
Yeah.
Warner went through a principal transition
And you got Denise Giacono.
this past year, and now we're going through it again. The last one didn't go so good. It was a pretty rough year for us. And you've got a lot of schools where there are going to be new principals. I think for us on staff, we knew this one wasn't going to work out last year pretty early in the game, but we had no channel, parents, community members, students, to express that to anyone. So I wonder if you have any idea about your plan in those schools with transition to make sure that the people who know the school community best are able to give feedback about how the transition's going.
Well, it's one of the reasons we changed the process with how we hired principals this year. So, for example, at Warner, you had about 8, 10 people on the panel, a combination of teachers, people from central office, and parents there that went through an interview process and brought Ms. Giacono to you. So now that she's there with the blessing of a section of the community, and that's important. And there was feedback that we were given because as we went through that interview process, for each candidate we hear, so what are the strengths of the candidate, and what are the wonderings? And when they come to me, I take those wonderings from the community and just put them right out there on the table and assess whether we think it's a strong fit or not. So now that she's there, we changed the process of the principal supervisors too. Once upon a time, we had a principal that was at one school who supervised 5 or 6 schools, and you can't really do that well because you're busy trying to handle your own school. So we've changed the model, and now principal supervisors have 10 to 11 schools that's just their full-time job, going in and providing direct support and coordinating supports from different offices to schools. So because they'll be in schools, it's our expectation at least weekly, and they'll be working with leadership teams. If there are challenges, we'll be able to understand what those challenges are and work through that. But we're also going to make sure that we have a strong relationship with the Nashville Public Schools Teacher Association. They'll be at the table with us meeting, so if there are issues, we'll make sure that there are structures so those issues can, work through them to come up to us for us to collectively figure out, how we support whatever conflicts that may be in schools.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm a little under the weather, so pardon my voice. I've been here 6 years from Florida. I've been at Stratford. Some amazing things have happened, but this community is amazing. This is the finest community I've ever really seen in action. And yeah, Ever since day one, I've been partnering with Martha O'Brien, and they're fantastic. They're amazing. They never ask for anything, but they're always giving, giving, giving. And you mentioned community and success. What strategies have you used in the past? Because I think I can speak for most of the principals, or maybe everybody here, is that even though we see some brilliant things happening in this community, I have, as a principal of a high school, I still feel like I'm always having to fight for the disparity and the inequity of our students, especially our minority students who maybe don't have a lot of money and maybe live in government housing. I'm always feeling like I'm having to fight, which is a great fight, and I love a good fight. But what strategies have you seen used in the past where our community here doesn't always have to feel like we're having to defend ourselves, and we can really be proud of the work that's going on in this community?
Yeah. So, you know, we live in a tough country, right? I mean, this is so, right? America, and when you're in a capitalistic society here, right? There's always this fight for resources, and there's always this challenge because you got limited resources that have to be spread across. So I think it's important that the community find a way to mobilize, collaborate, and advocate. And I don't think that's going to ever change, because there's just always going to be a dynamic of there's more need than resource. You know, what I can say is from where we sit, we have to think about equitable. How are we distributing resources in an equitable manner? And equitable is not equal. And I think this board understands that. So this may be a community that may need more than another community, and we have to figure out how we align resources here so people can get the needs, and we have to be clear about what the needs are and come up with a fair way to equitably distribute the work. But that's the challenge, because there's limited resource as we do that. But our commitment will be to have those tough conversations and figure out how do we give a community what it needs without another community feeling like it's a Robin Hood syndrome, that we're taking from one part to give to another, because that's when the tension comes. I mean, that's the crux of the tension between charters and non-charters, right? I mean, in limited resources, people feel like if I create a school, then I'm taking away, and no one feels good when there's a winners losers perception. And we have to find a way to reframe how we do the work, so there are just winners, and those winners should be the kids in the community.
Good afternoon, Dr. Joseph. My name is Shara Rand, and I'm the principal at Isaac Litton Middle School.
Hi, pleasure to see you.
Nice to meet you. The Stratford cluster is known for our STEM focus, and one of our goals as a cluster, I've worked with Dr. Steele, is to ensure that we have a strong feeder pattern between Dan Mills, Isaac Litton, and Stratford for our students that focus on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I speak for a lot of other schools, not just Litton. In 2013, we received the STEM designation. However, we did not receive funding to really immerse our students in STEM, with the goal of sending our students through our feeder pattern with the strong focus in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I would love to hear what your plans are to focus our cluster on STEM and making the funding more equitable around our STEM education in our cluster.
Yeah. So I need to look at all of the programs that exist within the Metro Nashville Public Schools, including STEM. And I was speaking with the Nashville Public Education Funds Board this morning. And one of the things I was saying to them was that, I don't understand why Nashville wouldn't have the best STEM programs in America, because we have such a strong science community here. And how are we leveraging those major mega corporations and businesses here? Not only asking for resource, but utilizing their expertise, utilizing their facilities and their labs, utilizing the universities that we have here and their labs and our community college. I mean, there's a way I think we can leverage resource to really empower and give our kids opportunities that they could not get anywhere else in the country. just because of the natural resource that exists within this community. But it's just a matter of getting the right people at the table and dreaming big enough and coordinating well enough to make that happen. And then that's something, we're going to be looking at this year.
Okay, this is our 5-minute warning, so if you have questions that we may not get to you, please utilize your question cards, okay?
So I heard the question earlier about technology in our schools, which is fabulous, but my question is, at the younger age levels, especially elementary school, we have started doing what's called the creative curriculum at our preschool hubs, and those are more play-based learning, which has become understood to be more developmentally appropriate than just sitting little kids at tables and cramming information into their heads. So my question for you is there the possibility that that type of approach to education in our elementary schools could be scaled up through the 4th grade? It doesn't take away from any other program, whether it's STEM or International Baccalaureate or anything else that a school has going on. It's just the approach to administering the educational experience in a more play-based, developmentally appropriate way, as opposed to sit still and do your work that way. That's my question.
Yeah, so I don't know enough about that. I wasn't an early childhood person to adequately answer that question. What I will say is that we do have elementary experts, and I can get an answer to you on that. In general, I do believe that a project-based learning approach is the best way to go to make learning more experiential and to make it more real life and real world is the way we should be. I mean, we should not be giving kids the drill and kill worksheets anymore. And if that's happening, we need to stop it soon and work towards that. But I really would need to get more information to be specific about the play question that you asked.
I have a question from the card. It says, how will you ensure that schools in rapidly changing neighborhoods won't fall through the cracks because of gentrification?
This is where we have to work with the collective community. I think it's a very challenging endeavor. I mean, there's a book that I'm reading called The Unequal Metropolis, right? And it talks about Nashville's desegregation efforts. And it talks about the fact that Nashville was statistically the most desegregated city in America. But when you looked inside what was happening, we just started tracking kids. So they were in the same building, but you had separate learning experiences within those buildings. We've got to get all of our families understanding what the excellence is in our schools, and we've got to get families, particularly the new families that are moving into the community, in the schools, understanding the community's history, and appreciating, celebrating, collaborating, working with people that have been here for generations. But that, I think that there are ways. One of the things I've seen work effectively is a process called study circles. And I think in a community that is going through a gentrification process, bringing in study circles would be extremely beneficial. Study circles are a process whereby people within the schools and community members and students come together and they talk openly about the challenges that different race and culture may have on the learning process and how it might affect what's happening within the schools. It's a way for people of different races and cultures and socioeconomic backgrounds to have a focused, structured, open conversation about their perspectives and learn from one another in a very constructive way and develop community plans on how we move forward. We'll see, without that that formalized conversation and acknowledgement of things are changing and different cultures, different socioeconomic bases, different perspectives have entered the conversation. People aren't structured and openly talking about it. They talk about it with people that look like themselves in different places, and the community does not move forward cohesively. So in areas where gentrification is occurring, we've got to be thoughtful about those types of practices if we really want to move forward as one band, one sound.
This will be our last question, and I'm so sorry if we were not able to get to you. Please remember to write all questions or comments on your comment cards, and we will collect them on your way out the door. Also, remember to go to the gallery walk, and you also can get your voices heard as well. Dr. Joseph will get to see all of this information.
Hi, good evening. My name is Charlie Utley. I'm a rising sophomore at Stratford High School, and as someone who's both attended a charter school and a public school, I was just wondering how you were planning on growing charter schools while also encouraging the growth of the Stratford cluster.
Yeah, so what my interest is to make sure that we have high-quality choice within all communities, and it's going to be a multitude of, so we're going to look at various partners, charters, we have charters that are here, do we have, what's the community's interest is what I'm very interested in. What does the community want in terms of programming? And then who are the best in class to be able to create those types of opportunities. Maybe it's a charter, maybe it's something within the school system that we do. I think we have to look at who the partners are, what the interest of the community is, and create a match as we move forward. So I don't have a particular interest in growing or taking away any entity. I just want to focus on quality and take it from the programming perspective.
Parents? Testing. Parents, principals, teachers, thank you so much for coming tonight and for participating. Dr. Joseph, thank you so much for the opportunity to hear from parents tonight and for your time.